Alright, we are recording for Chapter 10 of Project 5, Final Frontier. No, a little bit later than that. I hadn't gone all the way back. There we go. In the chapter for the highlights. Not much to talk about here, because most of it is action, as I've tried to explain before, and I know I do a poor job of it. Action in books has a certain quality that makes it akin to fluff. There's still progression, and so it's reasonable that it is many pages long. But still is... You can summarize it very easily, very rapidly. So in this case, it's just the whole shuttlecraft knows that, well, Kirk recognizes the whole shield's up, we can't get on there. Not with the bird of prey around. Cybok in a little bit of denial on that, but in any case, he allows Kirk to give the order for, emergency landing plan B. B, sir? Yeah, B. For barricade. The whole, it's like there is no such thing as landing plan B, which is stupid, actually. Because you would need to have a contingency for a damaged shuttlecraft coming on board, meaning one that might be traveling too fast, or just you can't use... Well, yeah, and also just what if you have the tractor beams are not available to grab it? It's like, you would have a contingency for catching a uncontrolled shuttlecraft. That would have to exist. I mean, it's... I can only believe that for an aircraft carrier today, and for decades now, they've had plans for, okay, how do we catch... And like you say, you can just say it. For catching a plane that has lost its landing gear, that is unable to slow down, that it has to land very rapidly. What if it was something like, we're running out of fuel, but, we're having traveled high speed because we were being chased or whatever, or I don't know, and just having to do that. And we do. There is a net that can come up and catch and all that, so that makes sense in an aircraft carrier. Here, no, it's a cargo net. It's not a safety net. It's not something that catches the shuttlecraft. It's just a cargo net. Anyway, what was this first highlight? Oh, yeah. Jim had experienced an undeniable revelation. He was reacting exactly as he would have had someone tried to steal the old Enterprise. Spaceworthy or not, the new Enterprise was his ship, and he'd be damned before he let a lunatic Vulcan and his fanatical army of zealots have her. But it's like, he was reacting exactly as he would have had someone tried to steal the old Enterprise. It's like, yeah, it's your ship. It's irrelevant that it's the new Enterprise. If you had the Excelsior, you'd still be reacting the same way. Because that's what you do with your ship. Throughout the story, haven't really been talking about this, but throughout the story, we have had comparisons of the old and new Enterprise. With the constant, the new Enterprise is 11. That stuff, which doesn't make sense. I hate it. It's stupid, but moving on. And so it also is just reminding me about how they set it up so that the ship has a incomplete crew. And it's just kind of funny. It's Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, not Voyage Home, because we weren't really on the Enterprise there. And then this, they all have some reason that the ship does not have its full complement. I think even the motion picture, if I were to look at that, I think even in that novelization, they don't have full complement, which is supposed to be like 400. I think they are more like 100, or something at that, because it is just, we're doing, we don't need, the full thing. It's better than a skeleton crew, but still. But yeah, it's just annoying, this idea that, I mean, I get the whole, you're making those constant comparisons. I understand that. But it still is your ship. We don't need it's like, oh, I'm reacting as though we're the old ship. It's like, no, it's your ship. It doesn't matter. Your reaction is that. So yeah, so they have the whole thing about, the whole, how we gonna get on there. Aboard the Okrana, which that's Claw's ship, the Klingon ship, Claw and his bridge crew listen to the exchange between the tiny shuttlecraft and the Enterprise. So let me get this straight. You have a Starfleet ship that knows there's a Klingon adversary around, they are most likely going to try to attack you because of Kirk. And the whole, there's a bounty on his head. It's like, you know this. So you're going to carry out your communications on something they can listen in on. Is it the deadly years? Let me check on this. Because there is an episode of the original series. Yes, it is the deadly years, where some of them, including Kirk, have been exposed to a radiation that causes them to rapidly age, and Kirk is seen actually getting kind of senile and forgetting things. For example, he tries to give her a command that she's to send a communique back to Starfleet Command, but he gives her a command to use a code system that the Romulans, they're near the Romulan border, has already broken. And this is used as evidence that he is no longer competent to be the captain of the Enterprise. But at the end, he is restored, goes up there, and they have now been surrounded by Romulans because the Commodore who took command of the ship is not very good at the job. Anyway, Kirk is, back to his old self, or is he? And he tells Uhura, open up communications with Starfleet Command using this code. And she's like, Captain, and he's like, you heard the order. And what he then does is just, he uses the Corbomite maneuver from from much earlier in season 1, that it's saying that, well, we are surrounded, so we have no choice but to activate our Corbomite device, which means that when we are destroyed, when we are attacked, there will be the reaction that will be like 10 times, however many times larger in response, that will destroy the attackers. So it causes the Romulans to back off a little bit, giving him enough space that they can go to warp and escape. And it's like, you had the consciousness there of, the awareness there of coded communication and using whether or not they are or not broken to your own advantage. But here, we know the dude is there. We know he wants to kill you. Let's make sure we, have our radio broadcasts in the open. Yep, I'm supposed to take this seriously. Yeah. So, but Claw is still excited because it's like, cool. I know he's on the shuttlecraft now. Awesome. But I don't want to just shoot the shuttlecraft and kill him. I have the opportunity to take the Enterprise. And if I can shoot into the shuttle bay, I can at least break the back of the ship, if not completely destroy it. He then apparently decides to line up his shot in the dumbest way he could, because the Enterprise disappeared. Firing. The Enterprise disappeared. One moment she was there, the next gone, because they went into warp. Claw's wasted shot dispersed in the void of space. Track her course, Claw roared. Could not let Kirk go. He had been humiliated in front of his crew. If he failed now to destroy both Kirk and the Enterprise, story of his failure would circulate throughout the Empire. Claw the Invincible, vanquished by a human criminal, James Kirk. Not so invincible after all. It's like, yeah, but it is Kirk, okay? Kirk is a legend. The Klingons have respect for him. It's, yeah, you failed because you were overconfident and an idiot. But, dude, I mean, it's the core, Kang, I can't remember all the others. But, I mean, he's defeated many other Klingons, so relax. Ones with far more experience than you. But it just, I find this stupid because we know on the model of the Enterprise that the shuttle bay is at the rear of that, right? So, it, what he should be doing, and it actually even, hang on. It might have been somewhere else. No, it is. Bearing 105 Mark II. Okay, so the way I've seen it explained, and this could just be he's throwing in gibberish here, and he shouldn't be, the author, I mean. 105 would be, again, because this is 0. 105, the first measurement is a number of degrees this way, so it's about over there. Mark 2 would actually be up there. That the second one is this angle, right? Here, you know what? I might have something that helps with this. Give me a moment. Had this thing for years, and it actually does have the angles here. But it is... Alright, so 0, I'm holding this as straight ahead. 105 would be there, right? Now, to do the Mark II, that's because this is the first number, like that. This is how you would then do the second number, right? Is like that. Now, but, it's 105, so over here, but Mark II would be there. Why the hell, if you're aiming this way, if the shuttlecraft is going this way, which has to align with the center of the ship as well, because that's where the shuttle bay is, why is he over here? If he were smart, he would have aligned himself so that... Hang on. That way. Would have aligned himself so that he's actually down that line. Because it's even a... Look, I don't even need to care where the shuttlecraft is. I know where it's going. Position the bird of prey behind the Enterprise because the shuttlecraft has to move in. And it's also... Look, the Enterprise is the bigger game here. In fact, he could be like, I'm just going to destroy the Enterprise, then I'll deal with the shuttlecraft. Once the shields go down, you're aiming, and the bay doors open, you just aim, shoot in there. Maybe you hit the shuttlecraft, maybe you don't. Irrelevant. The thing can't do anything to you. So it's like the shields come down, fire immediately, right in there. Here, destroy or at least severely damage the Enterprise, take out the shuttlecraft, or capture it, bring Kirk back in chains. But you need to get this line. What the hell is wrong with him? What kind of gunner is he? Where it's like, I'm going to use a shot that makes absolutely no sense because it has the least amount of reliability. And remember, he's cloaked, so he can take any position he wants. He can set this up however he wants. But it's like, nah, I'm going to make it the dumbest shot I can. Alright. What's frustrating for me here is it's not even like, oh, I'm just being technical here. It's like, I know that for some of the shit. Like how I was talking about in the previous one about you should have the ability to only lower the shields in the one spot on the around the shuttle bay. That's all. You should be able to do that. Not a problem. So, yeah, it's like that's being technical. But this is like, I don't consider this technical. I consider this, I'm just thinking about how the thing should work. And it's just, no, you do that, because it's also, you miss the shuttlecraft. You're still going to hit the Enterprise, which you also want to damage. So it's like, it's making your shots more effective. I don't, it just doesn't make sense. And now I'm also just trying to think, is there another example that potentially, like a real world example of something like that would potentially make some sense? See, I'm just, the tricky part is trying to figure out a situation where you will be firing at something that has an alignment like that. I mean, there is the whole, airplane flying into a hangar for cover or something, and that not necessarily, but it is still the whole. It doesn't necessarily make sense that a plane would just fly into a hangar and you're attacking it at that time. That doesn't make much sense. But it still is the idea that you have the freedom of positioning yourself however you want. It makes perfect sense to me to do the whole, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you land among the stars kind of thing, but, with munitions. It kind of makes sense to do that. Why aren't they? So the shuttlecraft crashes. Kirk gets out first. Sybok is soon after. Well, no, they start fighting inside, then they fall outside. Still fighting. Sybok is stronger than Kirk. And there's even a mention that Sybok has always been stronger than Spock. Makes some sense. Spock is half human, so that could be a reason. It can also just be some people are stronger than others. Spock refuses to shoot and kill Sybok, which... an issue I have there is I get the whole he doesn't want to shoot, but there's also that element of... I mean, he lowered the gun to aim under the rib cage because about here is where the Vulcan heart is. So he did that, but it's like, well, if he actually kept it up here... I'm saying if he aimed center of mass... Because this is something that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of times when... and Spock would be trained to aim for center of mass, because that's where you're most likely to actually hit the dude. I'm like, down here, I mean, yeah, technically it would be an instant kill shot if you do manage to destroy the heart, but if you, like, this is more central, so even if you miss, it's still somewhere that's going to stop, that's going to hit him. And it is just, the purpose of firing the gun in many cases isn't necessarily to kill, it is to stop the person, it is to stop the threat. So Spock actually aiming for his heart is not fully appropriate, because, like, well, you don't need to actually kill him. If you kept the aim up, you might be able to shoot Sybok, disable him, as is the purpose here, and then have aid rendered while, hey, Sybok is captured, the ship is safe. And McCoy is right there, so it's like, come on. Well, actually, no, McCoy's in trouble, so it is Spock is going to have to worry about aiming the gun at the other people there, but it still is... You got options here, Spock, besides killing him. But the thing that's more important here is Scotty ran down there and was actually in the booth overlooking the shuttle bay, so he actually sees all this happen. And he doesn't really know what's going on. When they spot that he's up there, he runs off. So this helps explain why he knew. I don't recall that being shown in the movie that he saw what was going on. But that explains why he knows to, like, follow them and go to the brig and break them out of it from the outside. So that may explain all that. But regardless, it's still... I get Spock not wanting to shoot. That he is inclined to be a pacifist. But he is still trained to be able to fire that weapon and... to be like, hey, Sybok, yeah, you're my brother and all, but you're the bad guy. Gotta kill you. Or at least gotta shoot you. Gotta stop you. So should still have that capability. And just... One image that came into mind for that. It's been a while since I mentioned it. And I do sometimes, mention other media quite different from this. The manga and anime Bleach, in one of the later arcs, there's a character who... Well, we've got two characters here. Neither's the main character for this. One that has the ability to alter your past, such that he will actually insert himself into your past, so that way you become a friend, and also he actually gains knowledge over over everything about the person, so he knows all of your techniques, all your weaknesses. And the other is a guy who formerly was actually an enemy of the main character, had at one point been an adversary to Ichigo, but has since befriended him. And this dude is so principled that even though the other one, the one that manipulates the past, even though he put himself into this guy's past, right? And so he knows him and has a love for him as a brother, as an uncle, as his closest friend, right? So Sybok and Spock here. This dude is still so principled. He delivers a fatal blow. And the other guy asks, how could you do that? Because you are Ichigo Kurisaki's enemy, and that is enough. It's like, that's how principled that dude is. That it's like, no, you are his enemy. I need to destroy you for that reason alone. That is enough. Spock, you could be like that too. And it's a really powerful moment, and it's also a pretty clever moment as well, because the first dude, the one who can manipulate the past, as I said, he knows all of this guy's techniques. I'm intentionally not naming them in case you ever want to watch it and not be spoiled. Although you'd figure out very quickly when actually watching it what's going on, what I'm referring to, if you were to watch it or read it. But in any case, he does in fact know how to counter every single attack. That's already been demonstrated. And this guy, he's bloodied already. But he has to come up with something completely new, something completely novel. And it works and is one of those that was actually very clever. Because he even did something that made this guy think, oh, you're just going to do this attack. Well, why would you? I'm saying, I know how to counter that. You don't have any attack like that I don't know how to counter. But he's done something completely different and it works. So, yeah. That is a neat moment. I do like that moment. But it's like, Spock, you need to be there as well. Sybok is an enemy of Kirk, an enemy of the Enterprise, an enemy of Starfleet. You need to be able to do this, okay? I'm saying, fine. You maybe make sure it's a shot that it's less likely to kill Sybok. That's fine. You can do that. But you cannot surrender to him like you do here. It is illogical. So, it's thready. Spock should have sufficient motivation to pull the trigger. I understand his motivation not to. I do. But he should still have enough motivation to pull the trigger. Just like how Sybok's motivation to get on board the ship should have allowed him to simply surrender, because the surrender brings him closer to the goal. Okay, so he has enough they're not following their motivations. They're not acting in accord with their established and stated motivations. So it's feeling thready. And I have no interest in rewriting these stories. But there is still that part of me that's like, okay, we do this different, we do this different, we do this different, we do this different, and hey, how do you like that? The story will still flow nicely, but it's not stupid. Because, I mean, it's like, the Enterprise gets there, and Sybok surrenders, is beamed up because he's a Vulcan, he needs to be tried, so he's the subject of the Federation, he needs to be tried for these crimes. Cool, on board. Hey, guard, share your pain with me. I'm now out of the brig. And now can go out and start amassing people there. Also have John and a few others there in the brig too. Well, maybe not John, because technically he'd be under the Romulan Empire. But regardless, have some there. Okay. Spock being confronted by this, and that being a great problem for him. But so long as he sees Sybok as being imprisoned, doesn't really have to worry about it. However, Spock, when Sybok gets out, you could have the whole, well, Spock needs to be true to the ship, true to his oath to Starfleet and the Federation, which means Sybok has to be under arrest. If he refuses to be under arrest, he has to be put under arrest. Okay, let's say that situation comes up, but that there's something that makes it illogical for him to follow through, such as if he were to open fire on Sybok, he himself would be shot and killed, and it's like, that's not necessarily the best use of resources, because there's also no guarantee then that the ship will be returned to Kirk's control. Trying to think what would be another thing there. Could also be that Sybok managed to get close to him and did the whole share your pain, and he does fall to Sybok's sway. I feel like that I would want to set a little later. But yeah, I mean, so you have these options here. Also, Sybok could be, just one thing as a technical matter. He doesn't necessarily know how the starship operates, but because the Enterprise, which also I wouldn't have the Enterprise being a lemon, but let's assume it still was, you'd have the crew, an engineering crew on there that are trying to put it together. Sybok is manipulating them, not necessarily Scotty, but them, so they know how to take over the ship because they're still trying to build it. Still trying to get it working. So it's like, you can work all that in. How do you get the confrontation between Spock and Sybok? Okay, it could be, sort of like the First Contact situation where parts of the Enterprise have been taken over. And Spock goes with Kirk to confront Sybok. Because they're both Vulcans, they clearly have a history, so most effective mediator. Maybe Kirk had some plan that would be to attack Sybok and capture him, figuring that would be a way to capture the ship. It would also be breaking parlay here, which isn't necessarily good, but still might consider that. And Spock neglects to. Now that, though, would be I couldn't. Why not? Because we were communicating, we came together under a flag of truce. I cannot violate that. Can still piss off Kirk, but it is still Kirk, you kind of don't get to do that. And then, maybe at the same time, Sybok managed to infiltrate, and so now has full control of the ship. They get thrown into the brig, so all that gets dealt with. And possibly from that point on, at least as far as the movie's concerned, a lot of it could play out the same. But it's true, we're not having the action stuff in these earlier acts anymore, or at least not the same kind of action. But it also... Oh, that's true, the dignitaries, because they would be brought up as well. Well, at least they could be. We covered to, make sure that they're all right, medical check over that kind of stuff. But they could be the ones that have free reign of the ship then and are doing things to help Sybok out. And, so yeah, that could... There are ways of doing it such that it still makes sense. Everyone is following the motivations that, as I said, are established for them, because Spock has a long history before this, are stated for them in the case of Sybok, because he's new, also the dignitaries. So it's you can do all that. It just, you're not having all the action pieces, but you're still building. Because part of it would then also be seeing Sybok's plan, more accurately, unfold. The reason why I say plan is because he's not necessarily actually... He doesn't necessarily have a plan where it's then this, then this, then this, then this happens. No. It could be I surrender so I get onto the ship. I'm now on the ship. He might not have a plan past that besides my presence is enough to take control of the ship. Right? Once I am there, I can take control of it just as I took control of the settlers. And maybe even he's done stuff like this prior. So it's now he's there, and his whole goal was that. From that point on, he doesn't have a plan anymore. He's just relying on his own abilities. But that's fine, because he's still created, or at least inserted himself into the situation where he can now apply his very powerful abilities to his benefit to achieve his goal. That still works, and you're seeing this unfolding then, to see him become more and more and more powerful, that he manages to capture the Enterprise while Kirk is there. That would actually be really impressive, because, holy shit, this guy... He managed to take the Enterprise from Kirk while Kirk was there in the center seat. There's not a lot of people that can do that don't have touching on omnipotent powers. It's that's actually really impressive. But instead we get this kind of nonsense. And it also, you could have... I'm trying to think, how do we deal with Claw? With all that. Okay, could be that Claw is, no, we cannot let you take Cord, we must take Cord, and also we need Sybok, the criminal here, because he will be tried under Klingon law, something like that. And just as an added benefit, and while we're taking Sybok, we will take you as well, Kirk. So have that be the source of the animosity between them, have that be the antagonism between them, but have it be a bit more out in the open. They've actually discussed it and all that. And so that way you can still have that tension, that source of tension there, and Kirk having to deal with how to escape the Klingons. And maybe it is then set, shields up, set a course, we have them aboard, set a course for Federation space, and the nearest, radio Starfleet that we need a small task force of starships assembled, because we are being followed by a Klingon bird of prey. Okay, could do something like that, and could even be advise Starfleet, contact the Klingon High Command to send a ship to collect Cord, but at a peaceful or neutral location, so that so they're not going to try to kill me too, take me too. It's something like that. You could do that, but then Sybok takes control and now diverts them to where he believes Shakari is. So you can do all that. And then it's Claw even starting to pull back a little bit and just watching, and maybe even getting communications from the Klingon High Command telling him, dude, you can't do this. But he's I must. I at least have to keep monitoring. It's or maybe they're telling us to Well, no, they're telling us to not attack. We will continue to monitor. While cloaked, do something like that, and then go off to Shakari, and then Claw can be like, okay, he's gone off course. This is not what was agreed upon with the Klingon High Command, so those orders don't stand anymore. But can also be why would he do this? What? This makes no sense. There's no reason for him to do this. So it might also be giving him pause to be like, wait, something's off. Something's off. I'm not going to attack right away. I want to just hang back and watch this. Because that would also be showing him learning as a commander. So now going there, it's like following. And now he's just going to be in the position to act or react when the time comes. But it could still be, they get there, decloak, and decide, I'm going to attack the Enterprise. Could decide to do that, but maybe not. I mean, it's... You can still have all that work and have it make a lot more sense as far as their motivations. See you next time for Chapter 11.